All right, thank you, Chase. So over the last few weeks, we have seen two extremes. First, California was suffering through drought conditions, and now they're very far from that drought with too much water and flooding conditions. So let's welcome in Chloe Demrovsky, President and CEO of Disaster Recovery Institute International. Chloe, I first just wonder how this is going to affect those historic drought conditions that have been plaguing California. Does it help, even if this is obviously not the way they would prefer to get that kind of help?
Yes, it's definitely helping with building up snowpack and trying to refill the reservoirs, which is a really important part of this. But of course, getting this much water on top of drought conditions causes additional problems because under drought conditions, the soil ends up packing very much like concrete. So it ends up when you get this kind of rainfall on top of hardened soil like that, it can't absorb it quite as well. So that's why you get these kinds of dangerous flood conditions. Already, a lot of California is under concrete and pavement anyway, and then the soil has hardened. And also some of the wildfires, the way that can interact as well is creating kind of a waxy residue that also prevents the water from kind of sinking into the soil. And so it's, again, this constant climate problem of too much water, too little water in all the wrong places.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always, wonder and worry about the people, right? Like with these events increasing in frequency and severity, your head's always on a swivel. Is there anything that can be done to protect the people and businesses that are now constantly being impacted?
Definitely. So one thing that's really important is for people to stop associating floods with only living in a floodplain. You might think, oh, I don't live next to a river or on the beach. I don't have to really worry about flooding. What we're seeing with these sort of heavy rainfall events, and there are lots more of them happening now, they're happening all over the place, and you can get flash flooding with very little notice kind of anywhere. So everybody needs to be educated about what they will do in the event of a flood, because you might not know, but just 6 inches of fast moving water is enough to knock you off your feet. And generally when people lose their footing in flash flooding, that can be very fatal very quickly. Similarly, it's just a foot of water for a car. So when you see those pictures of cars driving through water, that is incredibly dangerous to do. Even if you have a bigger vehicle, it does not take that much water to wash the car away. And that is a seriously dangerous situation. So it's very important for people to be educated about that. And then also really importantly to discuss with their families what they will do in the event that they get separated or they can't communicate, the power is down, it might be harder, cell phone networks get overloaded. So it's really important for people to talk to their loved ones and have a plan in advance, because when you're in the middle of a disaster, you're in panic mode and you're not making great decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about people living close to water because they're obviously the ones that should be the most worried. That's the most obvious, right? But I do wonder about the ports on the coast, not just in California. Could these weather events impact the rest of the country as well in some way?
Totally. So the big issue here is then how do you unload things off the ports? That was part of the supply chain issue that we were seeing. These ports in California are a major entry point for all of those goods that come from Asia and are really important to our economy. So if those goods can't get unloaded off of the ports, which they can't during stormy conditions, and then if the roads are impacted and trucks can't get through, then you just end up having a backup at an already super congested port. And we're still in the midst of supply chain problems. So that creates another potential issue. And then there are sort of the food supply chain potential issues as well, because so much is grown and produced in California. A small example of that is crabbing. The crabbing season just started, but the ships can't go out from port currently to start crabbing. So that will be delayed even further.
Chloe Demrovsky, I want to thank you so much for giving us all of this to think about. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Ashley.
We'll be right back.